Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the funeral services of Mr. Louis Atlas. If we could ask everyone to come underneath the canopy. There are ample seats. It's not a sign of weakness, but a sign of wisdom. Rabbi Yosef Posner from the Skokie Chabad will be officiating, and at this time we're going to perform the ancient ceremony of Kriya.
Mizmer Dava Noiro Yasser and Sashi everything is now in Rashi Shaver and Kain Bible tells you on Kanki of the girls like Yati by the shift of Shantaka him Nachuni, Tarek van Shoch and Nugget said the Shant of Shan race you face by Yacht of Hesed you for a higher shot way said Netherham. She standing on it.
Anybody wants to sign the book, it's here.
I was told that there will be no speeches, which works very well because it's Minhag Chabad not to deliver eulogies, it's speak at a funeral, so that worked out very well. So I would just like to mention that we do ask for forgiveness from, as we we do ask for forgiveness. I did not know Louis Eliezer ben Shalom well, but I did have encounters with him here and there, and I still have somewhere in my files exactly his specifications of how he wanted his lulav and esrog, the color, the size. He knew exactly what he wanted, and there are many things which he needed and help he needed from others, and I'm not 100% sure that all of us can say that we're there for him all of the time and all of his needs, and therefore this time we ask him for mechila, that should forgive us if we, for any way that we may have fallen short in doing what he, doing for him what he needed done. Without any further ado,
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to come forward to place earth into the grave, please come forward. Folks, you can use either side, and then for the ladies, if you want to use this, it's easier. You're all two. You all get it. Yeah. Yeah, put down more. Here. Unfortunately, I was gentlemen, under the idea of pikuach nefesh, it's warm out here. Typically, we don't eat or drink in front of the deceased. But Kaylee's going to walk around with some water. Just stay hydrated. It's important that you stay healthy. Limo Rabin. Yeah, of course. And ladies and gentlemen, while we're closing the grave, Rabbi Oren is going to give a few words of tribute.
So just to, if I can, I'm just gonna speak without the mic. It's okay. My voice projects sometimes. So just to share a couple memories that I really have of Lewis. And I just have this one particular story. I don't know. I mean, Mr. Babner was here. Mr. Babner probably remembers this, but Mr. Babner at the Skokie Kollel runs the Avos Ubanim, the Father-Son learning, the Matzah Shabbos learning at the Kollel. You know, so kids come, adults come, everyone comes to learn Matzah Shabbos, and tirelessly Mr. Babner works, and he makes sure to get guest speakers. We always want to make sure that there's something to entertain the boys, not just the same. You know, just different people to give over Torah. There was one time, many years ago, maybe it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that Rabbi Keller, the Rosh Yeshiva of Telz Yeshiva, Shmuel Yishai Keller, came to the Kollel to speak. And when he came to the Kollel to speak, he said his Devar Torah, he spoke to the boys, and afterwards he saw Lewis. And he gave him the biggest embrace I've ever seen. He hugged him, he kissed him, and they were old friends. So Rabbi Keller told us that many years ago he had a child, or a child, who was learning in Riverdale, the Riverdale Yeshiva. There's a branch of Telz in Riverdale, and every time he would have to get in, he'd have to get out, he'd have to get there. Lewis would always pick him up. He was his driver. He was his Naaman. He was always very faithful, and he would always make sure that Rabbi Keller, wherever he needed to go, and obviously he was a man who didn't have a lot of time and had to get from the airport to the yeshiva, back to the airport, back and forth and everything, that Lewis would take care of it, and he gave him the special rabbinical rate. He gave him the special rate for being Rabbi Keller. And the truth is, that story to a large degree encapsulates who Lewis was. He was somebody that always wanted to give. He was always trying to be helpful. He had incredible ideas, and he was always trying to be helpful. That everything he wanted to do, he wanted to help. He always came to me by the Kollel. He was always looking for ways to say, what could he do to help? Whatever it was, whether it was helping with the food, it was helping with the learning. He was always willing to learn with there were sometimes there were kids who needed a chavrusa. He was willing to learn with them, and he was really an incredible person, somebody who was always willing to look to help. And I think if you really go back in his life, just to try to understand where that midah comes from, where that character trait comes from. So one of the things that Lewis talked about was that he learned in yeshivas RJJ in the old, I don't know where it was, I guess it was in the Lower East Side. He used to learn by RJJ. And when he learned in RJJ, whenever he had a couple free minutes. So he used to go, as Gayle already told us, he used to go, and he used to when he had a question, anytime he had a question, he used to walk into yeshivas MTJ, where Moshe Feinstein, the leader of the generation, was sitting and learning. And he used to go and he used to talk to him, he used to ask him. And I think from there, not only did he pick up a tremendous amount of Torah, and did he learn so much, and was able to grow through his own Torah studies through there, but he was able to recognize that somebody of Moshe's stature always had the time of day for him. He always used to comment that he would walk in. He was a 13-year-old boy, 12-year-old boy. He'd walk in and he'd ask him whatever question it was, whatever a 12-year-old would ask the Gadol Ador. And Moshe would give him all the time in the world. He wasn't in a rush. He wasn't in a hurry. He would sit and talk to him. And I think that's where Lewis got this character trait, that he too was somebody who was always willing to help, who was always looking, and no job was too small for him. He never said, "Oh, this is beneath me. I'm an older man already. I can't sit and study with the 10-year-old over here." There was no job too small for him. There was no job that he wouldn't be willing to do. He was really somebody that was always looking as much as he could to help people. He spent a career doing it as a social worker. When he was later in life, when he was at the Kollel, his entire life was all about what could he do to help? What could he do? Could he help set up the food? Could he help set up the kiddush? Could he help learn with people? Whatever it was, he was always there to help. And I think that's just an incredible character trait that we should all learn from. And obviously, when we're at a levaya, when we're wishing our final respects to the deceased, something that we all want to do is we want to make sure we take a character trait. Like the Svarim tell us, when somebody passes away, that ability has left the world. We don't have his ability anymore to be so giving. And each one of us, hopefully, in this period of time, will all take upon ourselves to make sure that we're a little more giving, we're a little more helpful. We're always looking to help around, and there could be a proper tribute towards Lewis, towards Eliezer ben Shalom. Shalom Shalom.
was just mentioning to Rabbi Oren how Louis, he used to drive Rabbi Gershon Yankelevich, Alav Shalom, a lot as well. Rabbi Gershon Yankelevich was a Rosh Yeshiva at YU. He was blessed to live till 100 years and up over that. And Louis was Mr. Atlas was very involved in driving him to doctors and just taking care of him. And he actually was there at the Levaya as well. So I think it's important to mention as well.
Just want to add one thing to Rabbi Oren and what the last fellow just said. I recall once in 2020, it was after COVID, when Rabbi David Feinstein, the son of Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, was nifter. And I came in and I mentioned I knew that Louis was close with the Feinsteins. I mentioned to him that Rabbi David Feinstein was nifter, and he broke down in the uncontrollable tears, crying for Klal Yisrael and crying for the loss that we had. The chashivas that he gave and the respect that he gave towards Rabbeim, towards Torah, was exceptional, was unbelievable. Something that it wasn't a crying of a personal sadness. It was a crying of he recognized what it means that Rabbi David Feinstein, who was the Gadol Hadar, to be nifted. That's who he was. Which on the contrary, it was before Rosh Hashanah. I came in and I brought him a machzer. And the smile on his face and the simcha that he had with the machzer, he took it, he held on to it, and he ran back to his room. He was so excited and expressed such simcha with being able to have a machzer in his hand before Rosh Hashanah. I think it brings out some of the exceptional things that Eliezer ben Shalom had in his life that I think a lot of people didn't know, but he was a great man. Shamash and Aliyah.
Atzur tamam b'chol loy k'chol derachim mishpat el emunah ve'in avel tzadik v'yasharu atzur tamam b'chol payal miyem elem matifal eshal v'matav v'mal menus v'chaya meirit shel v'yal atzur tamam b'chol ma'aseh miyem elem matase hoyme v'eisach kinum chesed kinum lanusase v'sus hanekel keseh hakshiva v'aseit tzadik b'chol derachim atzur tamam erch payim al derachimim chamol no b'chus nal avisu v'anim l'cha adein s'lichas v'arachimim tzadik atov neil hamisal hachis asher v'yodcha pigrin kol ruchis chalil l'cha zikrenin Luchais, you know, a natural Rachman Allen of Kuchais, Luchadin, Rachman Vaslichais. Adam Ben Shani, Elfshan, Yichem, Isra, like Hayi, Baruch Dynamis, maybe some high Baruch, Yemis Dinai, Mishai to Taco Bain, Mishalam Ladam, Kashbain Bedinai, Hakel, Lishmai, Hidai Tainu. Dino, like it said, Mishmataha, Tizakuta Bracha, Ziska Mishmataha, in Harachmidus Shaftaha, Sadik Atot Nev, Asha Mishmataha, Diane Nemes, Shafit Sadik Emes, Baruch Dynamis, Shakal Mishpat of Sadik Emes. Nefesh kochai b'yodecha, tzedek moli mincha b'yodecha, rachim al pleitus tzedek yodecha, v'semer l'malach heref yodecha, gedol heitza v'raiv ha'alili asher, inecha v'kuches al kol darchei b'nei adam, l'sis l'ish kedrocha, v'chefrim al olav, l'haket yosher at neid zuri v'lev l'asabay, adnei nosan, adnei lokach, yihi shem adnei meverach, hu rachim chapar avim l'yashis, v'hirbal hashvapay v'leyoyer kol tamasay. Lamna sayach, and the Kedach is Shimon says call Amim, Zinu call Yeshua, the Gamadian, Yishach, Dr. Bevian, P. Dabachach, Mace, August Libisun, Atal, Marshall, Osni, Aftach, Kina, Kidasi, Lama, Iribime, Avena, Keva, Yusubina, Waitchem, Al Khelam, Urev Asham, Yasalo, Achlu, Fadi, if the usually in Lilium Kafre, Yekapijin Afsham, Vachad Alaylam, Kiaidla Netzach, Lira Shachas, Kira Kamimus, Yafik, Arivedo, Zulacherum Khelam, Kirabum betem leilam shkundesem ladar karu shmeis mal yadamis vaden bikar ba yal in nimshal ka hemis nidmu zed darkem kasalam me vachreim vi mirtsala katsain lishal shatu mavs yirem yurdu misharon levaker betzul valdes shel mzulai achelihim yiften hashim yachal ki gefenisala altire ki ashirish ki yir begevet besay kleven meis yikakel leerde dag erf kwede kinafse begay vi vareg yuduge kizete vlag tavia dar avesa netzach le yiru ar adem bikar Yav and Shalka Hemis Nidmu. Who's in Kaddish? Someone will say Kaddish? Huh? The long one. Amen. Amen. Amen.
El malei rachamim shoncheim b'amromim hametzei menucha nechona al kanfei hashchina b'malos kedoshim u'toharim k'zohar rekiya mazhirim es nishmas Eliezer ben Shalom shehalach lahalevi shehalach la'olamo b'avor shenod v'tzedakah b'adas karson shmaso B'gan Eden tei menucha so l'chein malei rachamim yastireru b'seiser k'nafav li'olamim V'yitzor b'tzor achayim esishmaso Adonai yunachloso v'yenu acham mishkavo b'shalom v'nomar amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the service. The Shiva will be at the Atlas residence at 8635 North Hamlin Avenue in Skokie. Mrs. Atlas will be observing the traditional period of Shiva. Mornings are from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. excluding Shabbat. All that information is on the service folder. Memorial contributions to the Chicago Mitzvah campaign would be appreciated. At this time, I'd like to ask if we could form a shura or shurot. I'd like to have men on one side, women on another. And as Mrs. Atlas walks through, you may offer the traditional words of consolation, which you can find on the back of the service folder. Please follow me for the shura. Mrs. Atlas, Gayle, if you walk through here, and we say together, Hamakom Yenachem Etchem B'toch Sha'ar Avlei Tzion V'Yerushalayim. Hamakom Yenachem Etchem B'toch Sha'ar Avlei Tzion V'Yerushalayim. This concludes the service. We hope everyone has a safe and healthy Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.